Hello, everyone. I am Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the final book study of Star Wars Allegiance by Timothy Zahn. We are going to finish up the book tonight. So, pretty good stuff to cover, and we'll get through it here in a moment. And I'll welcome the chat in just a moment. But first, let me, as always, welcome my co-host for these. Tonight, we have Mr. Darth Sever back to the stream. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Professor. I was feeling a little evil tonight, so I went to the dark side.
I see that. I like your dark side scarring too and everything on your face there.
Well, little problem in a place on Tatooine, she was a little feisty, but I like it.
Was it a Sith woman or a Trandoshan?
Well, let's just say she had nice tendrils.
I see. Okay. Welcome to Go Team Ghost Planet Go was first. Welcome to you, and welcome to my dear sound engraver. And Michael Pine, thank you so much. Just popped by. He said, actually, he super chatted me before the stream even started. Super chat, which I had to look up, but I looked up and it was about $2.95. So very much appreciated, sir. Says, long time no see, Prof. Can't stick around. So let me wish you and everyone else watching an excellent night. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Michael Pine. Very much appreciated. Absolutely. Yeah, tonight we are going to finish up, as I said, Star Wars Allegiance. And I'm going to take at least one, because what we've been doing is we've been keeping two book studies going at once. One on this channel, the Star Wars EU, every other week. And then one over on my Catholic Bible Geek channel, we've been going through Tolkien and Lewis and stuff like that, doing that on the off every other weeks. So, I am in the end of my semester right now with teaching, which means lots of papers coming in and everything. So I am going to take a break since we didn't neatly finish up Allegiance tonight. I'm going to take at least a break on the next time this week goes around. But after that, I would like your input on this, Al, and then I would like people in the chat who follow along. I would like their input about this too. I know that a lot of people just follow one or the other, but there are some fans who follow both. Would it be more interesting to do once a week study on one channel with just one book until that was finished, and then take a break and go over to the other channel and do once a week study on that channel until it was finished? Or do you like the going back and forth every other week kind of thing, Al? What do you think?
First of all, it's Lord Sever.
I'm sorry, Lord Sever.
Okay, I'll break out of that because my throat's weird. It does get a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm trying to figure out, how Frodo in the Hand of Judgment are going to take on Cauldron with the ring. And, but, I mean, I'm overstating that a little bit just for fun. I'm good with either, but it is a little more easier on the brain to do one book at a time.
Yeah. Well, we can definitely do that. I mean, I was kind of leaning towards that as well myself. I just wanted to hear what you and anybody else said.
My only thing is, like, since we're doing every other week, it's like every 2 weeks we get back to the story, things fade. You forget about things that are going earlier.
And heaven forbid if we have to cancel.
And if we miss one, it's like a month, and I'm like, who are these guys again? And so
I forget.
I would lean towards one book at a time.
Yeah. We still got a good ways to go on Lord of the Rings to finish. Well, not so much, actually. That's the appendix and everything. We got still a good few times to go. So I think maybe we'll just keep to Lord of the Rings until we finish out Return of the King. And then after that, I have already told Al, actually, I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes, not behind the scenes. I am going to, in fact, I should have done it tonight. I've got a separate setup over here.
And to quote a dear friend of mine, it sounds good.
Yes. This is part of there's another shelf over there where all my Star Wars EU books are and everything. So I just didn't get a chance to set it up tonight. But usually when I'm on this channel, I want to I'll cock my chair over here. Pardon my little stage light filter there. But and then have you see Star Wars behind me for this channel, but I just didn't get around to it. But Shatterpoint. Let me see. Where is Shatterpoint?
He's stepping away, leaving a lot of dead air. Why can I
no,
not talking like this? I keep talking like this. My throat's going to be terrible.
Yeah, it's not annoying at all.
Not at all, I'm sure.
All right, so Shatterpoint. Excellent novel set in the Clone Wars. It's a Mace Windu novel, and I like this for a number of reasons. It actually is one of the books that they re-released. Lucasfilms realizes that their High Republic stuff is garbage. I think on some level, somebody there realizes it, and they've been re-releasing editions of, as they call them, Legends books, but the Star Wars EU books. The cool thing about their re-release, though, is they're also re-releasing. When they re-release the book, they release a full unabridged audio of each book. And if you're like me, and if you like to bounce between written text and audio text, I listen to it when I'm driving or mowing the lawn and whatnot. It's a real pain in the butt that there's so much of the EU that's just abridged. That's all you can get is abridged versions because they're older. And then back in the day, for some reason, people were just abridging everything. So, but it's cool now that they're releasing, unabridged versions. So, Shatterpoint was one of them that they did.
And I'm hoping they're doing the same production style with
they are.
The music and the sound effects. And the guy doing the voices is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went ahead and gave this one a listen through when I thought that we might do it because I thought, well, let me hear how the audio is because I know that Al just likes to, listen to it as well as he reads through it, and it's great. The guy, it's not Tim, what's his name, but it's a guy who does Mace Windu quite well. So and his production, music, the John Williams scores and the sound effects and all that, it's really quite cool. But the book itself is amazing.
MFing stakes on this MFing Star Destroyer.
No, I told Al, I was just kind of joking. I was like, this book's amazing because it actually made me really, really just respect the heck out of Mace Windu. Up until this point, I'd always kind of like, okay, he's a cool character. He's one of the top Jedi and stuff and whatever, cool. That's fine. But no, this book's just like, whoa, I like really personally connected to the character. I thought that's amazing. Matthew Stover, so it's going to be good. Now, the cool thing about this, good.
Oh, sorry. That is one of the nice things about these books is when they can explore a character, like when we did the Obi-Wan Kenobi book.
Yeah.
And it just, it makes you like that character even more than we already did. And with Mace Windu, we don't really know a lot about him except how bad way he went.
Yeah.
I still think he's alive.
Well, speaking of the Kenobi book study we did, I am going to actually go back and edit that together in some certain parts or whatever and re-release that now that next month everybody's going to be like searching for Kenobi stuff. So I want them to see that, book study. But you also see in here that's Depa Billaba, who was Mace Windu's apprentice Padawan at one point. And she has a very, 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 very different story than this whole, than she was Kanan, master or whatever, and all this kind of other stuff. Really interesting. She's a fascinating character in this as well. It's just an awesome book. So that is going to be the book that we'll eventually get to, but I think the consensus is we'll finish out Return of the King first over on the Catholic Bible Geek channel, and then come back to these.
You were pointing to her, and it almost looked like you were giving me the finger.
Yeah, just did happen to be my middle finger that was right there tapping on her face. So, boy, somebody's messaging you all over the place there.
Friend out west.
Gotcha. Well, all right, so let's go ahead and shift gears now then to the Star Wars Allegiance, finishing out with chapters 21 through 24. Not a long set, and I will admit this: I'm a little fried in terms of intellectual and vocal stamina right here because I've been teaching most of the day and grading papers, which fries me intellectually there too. But there's a lot of action at the end of this book, as you can imagine. I mean, as we talked about, Zahn he's got these different groups of people. He's got Luke and Han and Leia, and sometimes they get separated into two groups. He's got the Hand of Judgment, our troopers, and then he's got Mara Jade out doing her thing. And then there's the bad guys, and sometimes we hear from these bad guys and that. So there's a lot of different groups, a lot of different spokes, but they've been kind of swirling around each other, and we've seen that they finally kind of come together, and that's good. We got Han and Luke with the Hand of Judgment. Now we've got the Hand of Judgment with Mara. That seems like a really interesting fit here, and we left off last time, and it really does kind of come to fruition here on the planet. They're thinking that Governor Chord is a traitor and whatnot, and it's there's a lot of action that I'm not going to detail, because again, this is a book study, so I'm not so worried about spoilers, because it's a book study. If you don't want a spoiler, you shouldn't just listen to my study without reading the book. But it's also not my goal here isn't to present to you the entire, tell you the story of it beat by beat necessarily. So I'm not going to summarize and go through every little bit of the action. But what I do want to talk about in this end of the book is how he draws together all of these cool themes of allegiance. And Al, as always, if I skip over anything that you wanted to bring up, feel free to stop me and do that. But a lot of cool things with the allegiance themes that he's got there, because as we said, we've got the Hand of Judgment, these 5 stormtroopers who have defected. They had to defect. We talked about that reason why they don't really like to defect, but they know that the Empire is not really what it should be. At the same time, they just really want to serve the people of the Empire. So we've got them trying to figure out what their allegiances are there. We have Mara Jade, completely 100% loyal to the Emperor, because she's still duped into thinking he's just good old friendly grandpa, but she's starting to learn how the Empire itself and the officers and the governors and so forth aren't exactly happy, loyal, what's the word? Stewards of this utopia that she thinks the empire is. So she's learning that there is corruption, and she's learning that certain allegiances are stretched and whatnot. Then you've got Han. At this point, this book takes place in between episodes 4 and 5, so in between Empire Strikes Back and New Hope there. And Han is still in his place where he's kind of, I think this is one of the last books, if I'm not mistaken, right before Empire Strikes Back. So, and of course, in Empire, that's when he really, he's been with them for a while, but he thinks he's going to leave again in there at the end and stuff. So he's really figuring out his allegiances, and we'll come to some cool parts in that in here. And so all of our characters, and then of course the bad guys, part of their plot is to declare independence from the Empire, at least as a way to gain power for themselves, not really in any kind of altruistic way to, fight the tyranny of the Empire for the sake of freedom or anything like that. But so a lot of, you can see how the themes are all kind of worked around. Now Mara she commandeered this troop, the Hand of Judgment, and they've had a little interchange with the 501's representatives, because Vader's on the planet with the 501 looking for Leia. And the troopers were hesitant to give their unit numbers, of course. Obviously, they don't want anybody to know that they were deserters. And Mara kind of stood up for him. Mara kind of said, it's enough. I'm the hand of the Emperor, the Emperor's hand, rather. They're coming with me. They're for me. That's all you need to know. So they're in this transport heading off to where they're going to go and fulfill, kind of, continue looking into the mission here to try and find Governor Chord. And she says, the magenta blade. So she starts to see them kind of like they're nervous. They don't know what they start kind of like reaching for their gun a little bit. They don't know her. They just know that she's the Emperor's hand. They could be in trouble. So she starts to see a couple of them kind of reaching for their sidearm. Not that they would just kill her in cold blood, but she senses things. She's trained in the Force here. And with a sigh, Mara. Okay, so she actually asked, excellent, Mara said, drawing her lightsaber, she rested the hilt on the seat back in front of her, pointing the weapon forward. As long as we have a few minutes, let's hear your story. One of the stormtroopers in the seat in front of her half turned his head. Excuse me, he asked. His right shoulder shifted suddenly, indicating a movement of his hand toward his holstered E11. With a sigh, Mara ignited her lightsaber. The magenta blade snap-hissed into existence, running down the center of the truck between the two sets of white helmets. Just leave your weapons where they are, she advised, in case having a lightsaber blade 30 centimeters from their necks wasn't enough of a hint. We'll start with your operating numbers and unit designation and your current assignment, all things you tried so hard not to tell the group commander back there. 4 helmets tilted as the stormtroopers exchanged glances across the glowing blade. Shy, are we? Mara went on conversationally. Let me get the ball rolling. You and your freighter, not something belonging to some vague friend or associate, were on Giparin in the aftermath of the reprisal attack on the Bloodscars base. I saw you sitting on the last intact pad when I took off on the Commodore's emergency bolt hole. all this sounding familiar? So we find out that Mara saw them back at the Bloodscar base because they were there. They were investigating the Bloodscar interaction, with the governors in the sector. So she saw them there. So she doesn't necessarily suspect them as defectors, but she knows that she herself is an Emperor's agent out here, not necessarily tied to any military commander or whatever. So she's suspecting what's going on with them.
It's one of those situations that she thinks that they're another operative situation going on, doing something similar, and all their paths are crossing.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything. She doesn't know the full story yet.
Yeah. And Zahn actually planted some seeds that kind of play into her thinking at this point earlier, but she asked for their unit designation, and he says, well, we're mostly just known as the Hand of Judgment. And she cocks an eyebrow. Sounds a little too poetic for Stormtrooper Command, she commented, and way too poetic for ISB. We chose it ourselves, actually, one of the others put in. And we're not allowed to reveal anything more, the commander continued. I'm sorry. Mara pursed her lips. She could force the issue, of course. But with Governor Chord presumably alerted to her presence, it would be difficult and dangerous to try to break into his compound alone. This Hand of Judgment hadn't attacked her as she departed Giparin. More significantly, they'd come to her aid after Caldra's gimmicked ATST had shot her down. And then she actually says, and while with Vader in the 501st, now, the first time we saw Mara see Vader back in the beginning of the book, she kind of had this naive, like, oh, it's Vader. Well, we're all servants of the Empire. Everything's okay. But Vader is very standoffish and kind of guarded against her. And she thinks, well, maybe Vader's jealous of me, and her, just from her set of thinking there. And she can't believe that. She's like, but we're all just servants of the Emperor. She's got this naive view of the Empire and the way it works. And here she discovers other agents in her mind who are other agents of the Emperor out there. So she's thinking, do I need to be guarded? Are they going to try and kill me too? Are they going to try and be against me somehow? But she discovers, no, their actions have said otherwise. So she's going to stick with them. She's not going to force the issue with them, and so on. So the progression of her understanding of allegiances in the book, we see that here. She'll discover a little bit more of them in a moment, what the truth is of them. But it's a nice little progression there, a couple steps in. Finally, in the next, go ahead, Al.
I like that image of her sitting there and them like getting nervous and then that lightsaber shooting down the middle.
Exactly. Very well. I'll go first. The second part of chapter 21 cuts to Chief Administrator Distra, of the planet there, and Caldra. Caldra's the military, just tyrant there, lackey. Go ahead.
Just real quick though, but you also have the fact that when they finally give her their names.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I like the little thing where it's like, we usually use the names that's shorter, quicker in combat, and Mara agrees with that. I like that Mara has all these ideas. About stuff,
and it's a great point. It's far easier in the heat of battle to say, Graves, come over here, than 0035678911. Come over here. It's like, what is that?
KK 1056789.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The second part of the chapter, we go to Chief Administrator Distra having a conversation with Caldra, who's been his ally in this coup. They've been trying to hire the pirates to come in, and they're planning an overthrow. We don't know exactly what they're planning yet. We get a little bit more information here. But the important thing is at the end of this chapter, we finally see a division between Distra and Caldra, where Distra is perfectly willing to sell out Caldra. We're in his perspective. Caldra comes in, and he's the one that had attacked Mara, and set the ATST to attack her and whatnot. But he's there, and he finally puts it together that these 5 rogue troopers were these were the troopers that defected from the what was the ship they defected from, Al? Do you remember the name?
The Reprisal.
The Reprisal. Yeah, the Reprisal. Yeah, so he puts together that they're the ones that have been causing trouble for them in the sector. It's not the Imperial agent hasn't been behind that. But they do know that the Imperial agent's there now. And Distra says, well, you need to take care of her. Caldra says we should go ahead and pull the trigger on our plan now. We should go ahead and have the governor declare independence from the Empire. And Distra rightly says, are you kidding me? We've got Lord freaking Vader here in the 501st. How's that going to work out? And Caldra's a little naive. He's like, well, they're not going to make a scene, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
you know.
we only have a Star Destroyer above us.
I know, exactly. And at the end, so their idea is, well, Cauldre says, Distra, you call out all of our pirate allies and tell them to come in and kind of back us up. And Cauldre shook his head, talking about this. Don't worry. When Gaparin went, so did their last hope of pinning us to the blood scars. He opened the door and disappeared into the maze of secret passages beyond. Let's hope so, Distra muttered under his breath as he turned back to his desk and switched off his comm panel. No messages were going out to any pirates tonight, not from this palace, not if he could help it. Keying the computer, he got back to his records compilation. Ironic, Cauldre had called it. Little did he know, for nearly 2 years now, Distra had been manipulating the man, jumping him through hoops only Distra could see. Now, suddenly, events had effectively pushed Distra to the sidelines, with his life and future resting completely on Cauldre's ability to intercept and destroy the Imperial agent. Distra could only hope the man was as good as he claimed. So we find out a little bit more of the backing of what's going on there. Distra's been using Cauldre just as he's been using Governor Chord. To assert he's a schemer, a manipulator behind the scenes. So the allegiances are crumbling on the bad guys' side here too. We're starting to see that.
Well, their personal desires are starting to,
Yeah. Now the governor has thrown a ball of this big sort of imperial, get together, because apparently that's what you do when the empire's there occupying your planet. It helps the nobles and everything feel a little more confident and calm, and everything's going to be okay and whatnot.
Nothing like a party.
Yeah, exactly. Now this is the part where I'm going to skip over and really sum up a lot. So Al, if you wanted to cover any of this stuff, you please don't hesitate to stop and let me know. But I'm not really going to go through the specifics of how, well, except for a few things. Mara and the troopers, her hand of judgment, they are figuring out a way into the palace. And Marcross says, I know a way. There's this back, this secret entrance that the governor has. And they're all, how do you know this? And we find out that Marcross grew up there. And he says he was best friends with Governor Chord's son. And we've been seeing hints of that so far. Zahn has been dropping little hints, throughout the text that Marcross is kind of silent when he realizes, that they're going to that to Gaparin and so forth, or to that Shelsha sector, Shelkanwa and whatnot. So something's been up with Marcross, and he finally reveals that he grew up there, and so he knows where this entrance is. He knows that it doesn't have codes and whatnot. Mara, from her expertise, knows about some of the booby traps that are probably there and whatnot. So they end up, getting in this way, and there's a lot that goes down. They're intercepted by some guards and whatnot, and things happen. Again, I'm skipping a lot, but at one point we have the where's the yeah. At one point, Mara gets separated from the troopers. She tells Larone, she says, Imperial Code or military code demands me to share the mission with the second in command, so that if anything should happen to me, you can carry it out. And she says Governor Chord is suspected, or he is he's been proven to be a traitor, guilty of treason, and the penalty for that is death. So you need to go carry this out, even if I don't make it. They do get separated. Mara falls into a trap of Cauldre's. Cauldre's basically just like soaked this room in this flammable liquid or whatnot, and he's at the other end of it, and all he's got to do is shoot the carpet, and this wave of flame is going to come towards Mara. So she keeps him talking for a while as she's kind of stacking up some chairs with the force, hoping to kind of get a way to bounce out eventually here. But it doesn't. As she's talking to him, he's asking if he can let's make a deal. You let me go. You can have Distra, just let me go. Again, we see that crumbling allegiance. And she starts to realize at the end, he's really stalling to find out if she has any pull with the Emperor, if she can really be of any effect to him there. And when he realizes she can't, he goes ahead and, he does reveal to her that the 5 stormtroopers went missing. She puts together in her mind, oh, I've probably got these 5 troopers with me that are defectors, so she finds out a little bit of information. But it's a really sweet scene. Once he shoots that ground, she jumps above the flame. She's jumped on this stack of chairs. It does burn her legs pretty badly, but she makes it. She makes it out, and it's really intense. It would be a great movie. I think it'd be a visual scene to shoot, television show or whatever. It'd be pretty awesome. So again, allegiance crumbling there with Cauldre and whatnot. Some parts marked here. Hang on. Now, one of the things that Cauldra reveals to Mara is that it's him and Distra who are involved, and they've been doing the plotting with the pirates, not Governor Chord. So Mara's thinking, "Oh no, I've just sentenced an innocent man to death if the troopers get there before me." Then we do cut to the troopers. They end up busting into the ballroom, holding their guns on Chord, and it's really interesting here because, let's see, Mark Ross stops short, staring at the governor. Hang on.
Yeah, you shot ahead like a pretty good amount here. I'm trying to find out where we are.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to really cover all those little things there. Okay, yeah, a few pages past here. Yeah, I turned way too many pages here. I wanted to read this part if I can find it. No, that's Cauldra. Okay, I can't find it. Just for the sake of keep moving along, I'm just going to sum it up. Chord, they pull their guns on Chord, and Larone has this moment of hesitation in his mind. He thinks, okay, can I really just shoot this Governor Chord in cold blood for treason? Because his allegiances have been tested. He still thinks he's loyal to the Empire in the way in which he's loyal to what the Empire should be. And he wants to protect the people of the Empire. And he does feel like he owes a little bit to this Emperor's Hand, who's been so fair with him. In fact, at different times in their fighting together, he's really impressed by how she actually goes back and tries to save or tries to help, he and the troopers in ways that any other commander would have just left them for dead. They're expendable, She doesn't treat them like that. So he does feel like he owes her a little something. Yet he can't just bring himself to execute Governor Chord there in the middle of everything, cold blood, he just can't do it. So he decides, well, you're coming with us. We'll arrest you, and this will be the case. This is how we'll do it. So it's again the progression there with him. But then suddenly Marcross picks up his weapon or aims his weapon at Larone and says, "Now everybody, put your weapons down." So Marcross is turning against him, but he does say at one point,
I gotta say, I totally did not see that coming.
You didn't? Yeah. It blew my mind the first time I read it too. I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, what?
I know, like, Marcross, are you double crossing them? What's going on? See if I can find the point here. The ballroom was quiet as a crypt. Now Mara slips in, and Mara gets to the balcony, but she can't really do much from the balcony. It's too far away for her force to work and everything. And Larone and his 3 stormtroopers were there, facing Chord, with perhaps 100 other people standing dead still around them. Marcross had taken off his helmet. Chord was holding Marcross. Now Marcross gives Chord his blaster and says, "Here, Mara's first reaction was to breathe a sigh of relief. Not only had she made it to Chord in time, but Marcross had apparently come forward and stopped Larone from carrying out Mara's flawed execution order. Now all she had to do was get down there, confirm the governor was in the clear, and get them searching for Distra and any of his allies who might still be at large. But Marcross has already looked at Chord and said, 'Hi, uncle.' So now we know he's not just a good friend of the son; he's actually the governor's nephew.
Yeah,
Your uncle. Oh, good.
It says, what's going on? Marcross said, turning his E11 around, handing it to the governor. Is that I've just saved your life? Taking a step back, he removed his helmet. Chord's eyes widened. Sabarin? Hello, Uncle Marshness. Marcross said, nodding to him. It's been a long time. Didn't see it coming at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what's interesting, though, is when
and then we go to 23, I guess.
Yeah. We'll go into 23 in a second here. But when Larone first pulls the gun on him, he says, "Lower your weapons," he said, his voice low but determined. "All of you." "What?" Larone demanded. "You heard me," Marcross said tightly. "All 3 of you now." And then this is the part here. For a long moment, Larone stared at that blank white faceplate, trying to read something, anything in the other's stance. But there was nothing there. "I mean it, Commander," Marcross said in the brittle silence. "Put them down." Commander. And suddenly, in Larone's mind's eye, they were back aboard the Sawantak after the skirmish with the swoop gang, their first battle as a team. "That's part of leadership," Marcross had said as the 2 of them stood alone in the cargo bay. "Knowing and understanding the men of your command and trusting them." Trusting. Drop your weapons, Larone confirmed quietly. So it does take you back, like is Marcross double crossing them, but at least in Larone's mind, he realizes I need to trust Marcross here. I need to trust him. Yeah. So we something's going on here. We know.
He's like, I know this man. There's a reason why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of allegiance. You know, he's got to show that trust.
Yeah, exactly. And we do find out. Marcross says, well, okay, let's go ahead and call let's call Vader in. Let's call him in so that we can clear this up and everything. And Chord says, absolutely not. And then suddenly we find out Chord has been wanting to secede from the Empire for his own motives, not for any kind of altruistic, I want to fight for freedom by any means, but he wants to gain power and whatnot. And Dijkstra has probably been putting him up to this. We know that behind the scenes he's been sort of a puppet for him. But Chord himself is very much involved in this treason. And Marcross has already given Chord a weapon. And Marcross says, well, that can't be. And Chord's like, I'm sorry to hear that. Chord actually points the gun at Marcross. And Marcross says, well, it's unloaded. I was testing you. I wanted to give you one chance to prove your innocence in this, because we find out that when they were on Gaparin, one of the things that made Marcross so sullen was that he saw some personal codes, some personal communication lines and whatnot that he recognized from a child. So he did know the governor, at least the governor's palace, somebody in there had to do with these pirates' communications, whatnot. So he's been testing Chord, and Chord fails. And Chord does shoot off the weapon just to see if it's loaded or not, and it ends up having one final shot in it. Oops, yeah. Does kind of burn Marcross a bit. It wounds him, but it doesn't kill him or anything like that. But then it is empty.
I guess the trooper armor in this book is a lot better than what you see in the films.
It's so true. I know. But eventually they're subdued. The 501st and Vader enters, and then this is a tense moment because here's Marcross, Larone, and the five-handed judgment deserters there, and Vader himself is present. And this is a scene. I'll see what you make of this, Al. Mm-hmm. So we find out first that Dijkstra has ran to Lord Vader and wanted to be an informant. So he's under Vader's protection now as an informant who is informing on Chord. So Dijkstra's been playing both sides, and he kind of gets away with it a little bit for right now. But Vader comes in. I'm sure evidence will prove Chord's trial. Mara says, my congratulations. Would you be able to arrange prisoner transport back to Imperial Center? My ship isn't particularly space-worthy at the moment. So I've heard, the Dark Lord said. Larone tried to imagine him smiling beneath that faceplate, but it was a futile effort. What about these? Vader nodded towards Larone. What about them? Jade asked. I'm told they refused to identify their unit earlier this evening, Vader said, his voice darkening. I also have word now from the reprisal that they have 5 stormtroopers missing. Larone felt his throat tighten, so they wouldn't be going to Stormtrooper Command, or even be turned over to the ISB. Vader himself would be dealing with them. At least it would be quick, probably. But to his amazement, Jade shrugged. Interesting, but irrelevant, she said. Those stormtroopers are mine. Yours? Said Vader. You have the entire 501st, Jade reminded him. You certainly won't begrudge me my hand of judgment. For a long moment, Vader stared down at her. Jade stared back, her face impassive but firm. Then, to Larone's relief, the Dark Lord stirred. As you wish, he said, lifting a hand slightly. Commander. The stormtrooper grouped the stopped forward. Yes, Lord Vader, so forth. I think Sound Engraver hates this scene. She thinks like, no, Vader wouldn't just back down like that. I think this scene can work, and there are motivations that would have made Vader not really care to fight this fight. But Zahn didn't give us those motivations. Zahn didn't make it clear enough here. You can read it in a little bit here that they've been kind of, snipping at each other a little bit, throughout. I mean, Vader's clearly the more powerful and the one who's got the more authority. But Vader's focus is on Luke, honestly, but Leia is a means to Luke. Mm-hmm. Vader himself is not all of that. He ticks off the Emperor, for losing the first Death Star. That's already happened and whatnot. I think this could have worked, but I just don't think Zahn gave us enough. I think Zahn's asking us to connect too many dots and follow too many breadcrumb trails that he just didn't provide us enough breadcrumbs for to really understand why Vader would back down at this point. What do you think, though? Because you kind of thought the last one was okay the last time they met.
I'm okay with it. but you are right. If there was one line, and I'm gonna say it in a colloquialism, but it would have had to been better in here.
Mm-hmm.
Is if Vader thought to himself, "I have bigger fish to fry."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This isn't worth my
And
time.
just like I've got my son. At this point, he probably knows who he is because he's using the name Skywalker for
Mm-hmm.
some odd dumb
Yeah.
reason. But
Maybe Skywalker's like Smith in the Star Wars.
yeah, how many others have we seen?
I know.
But yeah, that's just a little fun. But he does have a rebellion he's trying to take care of. 5 measly little stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Let Mara Jade, this wannabe person. I'm giving her this kind of as a what's the word I'm looking for? He's throwing her a bone.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have a feeling it's a begrudging. I almost don't want to use the word respect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a begrudging.
Not bad for a puppy.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
He's dealing with it.
Yeah.
He's just like, the Emperor likes her.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gotta do.
Yeah.
I'll just give her a bone, and she'll just go on her way.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I said, I got better things to do.
Now, Sound Engraver likes that idea too. I think we're all in agreement that just needed a little more clarification. A couple things though. Sound Engraver said the problem is these 5 aren't measly. The Empire's on a manhunt for them. The Empire's not on a manhunt for them. Only the Reprisal, because it's covering their butts. And I guess the head of the ISB too.
The
ISB
is because that is one thing. I wish they did deal with the ISB stuff.
Well, you're going to find out in the end that Vader himself doesn't really care all that much for the ISB.
Yeah, which a good little force choke here and there can take care of that problem.
Yeah,
but but back to the other one, Zahn didn't put that in there, so we had to kind of read it ourselves. But I think it's a very minor issue. I mean,
in terms of story, you're right. But for Vader fans, or at least it. I think it's a bit of a hole. That should have been caught in editing. You needed to.
See it. Yeah, it's like just a line, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Something he says to her.
Yeah. One aspect too that Star Wars EU fans would certainly have known while reading this, but not necessarily somebody who just picked it up. And maybe it's somebody here. I can't remember. Somebody who followed these studies was saying that this was the first EU book they read, or at least that they read this before they even read the Thrawn trilogy. But the point is, with the Sith, there can be only 2, right? The Master and the Apprentice. So Vader knows that he's a Sith. Mara is not. Mara is just one of the users that they can have trained in the Force as sort of little pawns for them to go out and do things. So Vader's in no, danger of his position there or anything. We know that. Tom Spiegel, thanks, Sandra.
Vader's number 2, and she's like, if you're using the chess analogy, she's a bishop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
powerful, but she is not a queen. That's kind of weird saying that, but it's not like that, not like the kill all piece,
Uh-huh. So they go now at the end. Mara she's leaving with her hand there. Lerone looked at Jade to find her looking back at him. "Orders, ma'am," he said, keeping his voice professional. "We're done here," she said in the same tone. "We'll pick up Brightwater on the way out and head back to Greencliff in your ship." Her eyes hardened. "And on the way, you're going to tell me a story. A real one this time." So it's coming to head there. But chapter 24, I love this because now we finally get back to Han, Leia, and Han and Luke, and they rescued Leia last we saw them. Now they're waiting in the Sawantech for the Hand of Judgment to come back. And as they're talking about, what are they going to do? "Don't worry, we can trust them," Han assured her, "though we probably don't need to tell them exactly who we are. Anyway, I've got Chewie prepping the engines a couple of hours out to where we are stashed the Falcon, and we'll be done with them." He cocked an eyebrow. "Unless you want to stick around and see if you can talk Lerone into joining the rebellion." "Former stormtroopers?" Leia countered with a wry smile. "I don't think so," she hesitated, "especially since I can't even talk you into joining up." Han grimaced. So she had noticed. That was a little awkward. Still, it was kind of flattering that she'd taken the time to figure it out. It's a pretty big step, he reminded her. I know, Leia said, especially for someone who's used to taking orders only from himself. But it was a step we all had to take. Her eyes drifted to the hidden closet and the suits of stormtrooper armor. And after Alderaan, I don't think it's possible to be neutral anymore, she added quietly. Either you support the Empire's oppression or you fight it. I suppose I could stick around a little longer, Han hedged, but I'm not ready to pledge undying loyalty to Mon Mothma and Riken and the others. Then don't start with them, Leia said, looking earnestly back at him. Start with loyalty to just one person. Han looked at her, a funny feeling in his stomach. Was she actually saying? Chewbacca wants to join us, Leia went on. Do it for him and for what his people have suffered under the Empire. The funny feeling vanished. Oh, he said. Oh, what? Just Han said, back on balance again. Anyway, I'd better let Luke out of his closet. Leia's eyes widened. You mean you haven't done that yet? You've been standing here talking to me and he's still stuck in there? He's got a lightsaber, Han said blandly. He can always cut his way out if he gets bored. Han, see you later, princess. But she had a point, Han had to admit, as he headed back out into the corridor. Maybe he could start with allegiance to just one person. Someone like Chewie. Or maybe even someone else. Just a wonderful way to take Han on an actual real progression. His character has progressed from where he thought about allegiance to the Alliance and so forth from the beginning to the end, but he couldn't go all the way to I'm loyal to you guys. Let's do this because we know that Empire Strikes Back needs to take place. But what a great way just to show actual progression, but leave him just shy of it, just shy of where he needs to be for Empire. It was really great. I like that.
Do it for Chewie.
For Chewie. Senator says, isn't that Vader's reaction threw me off? It was Mara's entitlement. Senator just didn't like Mara being too confident there in front of Vader. Yeah, I get that. Senator said, I love that ending with Han and Leia. Yeah, it's a great ending there. Now, we can't end the book quite yet, though, because we need to go back to see this scene, and this is the last few pages between Jade and the Hand of Judgment. And I'm going to read some of this because I think it's interesting to see Jade working out her progression and her thoughts of allegiance here. Jade listened in silence to Larone's story as Quiller drove the speeder truck through the Makron City quiet streets. You should have gone to your unit commander, she said when he had finished. There are procedures for dealing with incidents where there's a strong probability of self-defense. Procedures that wouldn't have involved us being turned over to the ISB, Grave asked. Point, Jade conceded. But you still should have turned yourselves in. Now it's too late. Probably, Larone said, trying to read her face. All of it a wasted effort. He had no idea what was going on behind those bright green eyes. But to be honest, at this point, we don't really want to go back. After Teardrop, he stopped, a lump rising in his throat. That was the incident where they were asked to fire on...
the massacre,
fire on civilians. Yes, and be assured that I'm going to look into that, Jade promised ominously. Ordering the slaughter of civilians is against everything the Empire stands for. If it's true, I promise you someone's going to suffer for it. Larone looked sideways at Marcross. The other grimaced in silent agreement. For all her strength and competence, this Emperor's hand had an awfully naive view of what the Empire actually stood for. But she would learn. What are you going to do with us? Quiller asked. For a long moment, Jade was silent. You're deserters, she said at last. You swore an oath of allegiance to the Empire and you broke it. That's technically as treasonous as Chord's own conspiracy. We understand, Larone said. But with all due respect, our oath was actually to defeat the Empire, to defend the Empire and its citizens. And you think that's what you're doing, Jade retorted, flying around the galaxy like loose laser cannons? We're certainly doing a better job protecting the citizens now than we did at Teardrop, Graves said. Larone winced, but Jade didn't respond. They were in sight of the Greencliff spaceport before she spoke again. What name is your ship running under at the moment? The Melnor Spear, Larone told her. I'll call the executor and give you your clearance, she said. Get off Shelkanwa and don't come back. Larone glanced at Marcross, then back to Jade. Thank you, he said. May I ask why? The young woman gazed out the windscreen as they passed through the spaceport gate. You helped me identify a traitor and take him into custody, she hesitated. Besides, a few days ago, I was ready to offer complete pardon to a man who'd done more against the Empire and its citizens than any of you could ever possibly do. That was the pirate she's worked with. He'll never get to use it. He might as well have it. You might as well have it instead. Yes, ma'am, Larone said, wishing he knew what she was talking about. Thank you again. Quiller drove the speeder truck beneath the Sawantech and came to a stop. Just stay out of sight and out of trouble, Jade said, pushing up the door and climbing out. The next Imperials you run into probably won't be so generous. She looked at Marcross, and it seemed to Larone that her head inclined ever so slightly to him. She started to turn away and turned back. Oh, and one more thing. That hand of judgment name of yours? Yes, Larone said, frowning. Lose it, she ordered. There's only one hand in the Empire, and I'm it. Turning again, she strode away. But you got this last little interaction between Brightwater and Larone. What was that all about? Some sort of political conflict, they say. Let's make sure Solo and the others get out of here. They say, sound good. So are we actually going to stay out of sight and trouble this time, like she said? Larone watched as Quiller drove the truck onto the platform. I don't see how we can, he admitted at last. We swore an oath to defend the people of the Empire. There are a lot of other dangers out there that need to be defended against. Actually, I was kind of hoping you'd say that, Brightwater said, resting his hand briefly on Larone's shoulder. For all the bumps and bruises, this hero stuff definitely helps you sleep a little better at night. Agreed, Larone said. Let's get out passengers back to the Falcon and get on with our lives. He looked back to the direction of the palace and our duty. I love that little bit, and our duty, because that's they still have a code. They still believe that they're loyal to their oaths because it was to defend the citizens, not the Empire itself. You know, it's it's really great.
And as you were reading that, I couldn't help but hear in the back of my head the A-Team theme.
Oh yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, 4 or 5 instead of 4, but yeah.
And which was really formerly known as the Hand of Judgment,
which was really the Last Samurai, or the Five Samurai? No, not. I'm sorry, Seven Samurai. But what was the Western based on the Seven Samurai?
Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent Seven, yeah, which A-Team was based on itself. So yeah, it's a theme.
Bad at numbers, man.
I am. I know. We do see the Hand of Judgment again, but it's a ways out in the continuity, and there's too much to cover between now and then. But they do come back in the EU, so we do see them with Mara and whatnot later. But
do they change their name, or they just go by whatever?
I haven't read the actual sequel yet, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering what they go by now.
So Mara and Vader both are in front of the Emperor in the end here, and Mara says they're dismissed, into their separate missions and whatnot. And Vader says,
also, before Vader, we also get the Emperor a little bit too.
Yeah, I said that right before the Emperor. Yeah, and the Emperor.
Oh, okay.
Now Vader and Mara are walking away. Mara says, "I have a favor to ask, Lord Vader." There was a short pause. Continue. It's about Captain Ozzel, Mara said. He claims his attack on the Gaparan pirate base had nothing to do with me. This is the captain of the Reprisal who'd sent the ISB agents after to kill Mara. He claims it has nothing to do with me, but that was based on intelligence supplied by Colonel Solmaril. And Solmaril supports him in this, Vader asked contemptuously. Of course he does, Mara said in the same tone. For all their differences, she reflected, she and Vader at least had the same opinion of the ISB. And with their stories welded shut that way, there's no grounds for any kind of real interrogation. What would you like me to do? I'm not really sure, Mara confessed. Keep an eye on Ozzel, I suppose? I don't know if the man's disloyal, easily manipulated, or just plain stupid, but I think he bears watching. Vader was silent another few steps. Leave him to me, he said at last. I believe I can arrange something, which we see in Empire. And then we hear, this is a wonderful way to end it. Countess, a voice called from across the corridor as they were passing. Countess Claria! And this is General Dirian, the man who was standing up for her and trying to protect Mara when she was under the guise or role of Countess Claria when she was investigating governor, for treason and whatnot. He was the one that saved her from the lecherous young guy trying to get her drunk.
Yeah, he's a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah, and she had interceded for him with the Emperor and said, please, when you do take that governor down, do bring General Deary, and he's a loyal man to the Empire. And we see the Emperor has done that. Mara looked in that direction and saw a familiar person hurrying toward them. Why, hello, General Dirian, she called back, stepping in to wait for him. Vader didn't even break stride, but continued down the hallway. What are you doing here? She asked Darian as he came up there. I have a new position, Darian said. I've been assigned, this and that. So they talk for a little bit. And then he has to go off to a meeting. And it says, Mara watched him go, a warm glow spreading through her. Lerone could talk all he wanted about these scattered abuses of power, and certainly those abuses needed to be dealt with. But as long as the Empire could still produce men like General Darian, it would be worth defending, worth her energy and her life, and her allegiance. Turning again toward Vader's cloak billowing in the distance, she headed for her quarters, where her next assignment was waiting. Now, we've already established that Mara is Little Miss Daddy Issues. The Emperor fulfills that role now, and later we see in the Thrawn trilogy when he's blown to bits. Oh shoot, what's the smuggler that she works for? Just blanking. The great character, and I'm blanking on the name. Anyway, he becomes father figure to her and so forth. And that's what makes Mara and Luke such a great combo, because Luke's overcome any of his daddy issues, in fact, he's redeemed the father. Archetypically, he's redeemed the tyrannical father. Mara's never overcome the tyrannical father. She's been manipulated by him over and over again. So it makes sense here, at least at this part in her progression, even back then, that she would feel such warm feelings to an older man who was kind to her, Talon Card. Thank you, Sound Engraver. Pretty appreciate that. Yeah.
I knew there was a K in there, but I couldn't get Kyle Katarn out of my head.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kyle Katarn. Yeah. So we see her end with her progression. She starts to find out there are cracks in the Empire, but she's still loyal because, men like Darian and so forth, So again, taking them all on a good, solid progression, but leaving them where they need to be, given the stories that come after and everything. Mm-hmm. So that does finish us up on Allegiance. Again, just a wonderful tying together of the theme. It's a great example too of how to actually have a bunch of different protagonists, or at least groups of protagonists, perspectives of the novel. It takes talent, it's not recommended in your first novel to start with a bunch of different perspectives and all of that. I've seen amateur novelists, and by amateur, I mean just beginning novelists, not poorly skilled novelists at all, but just beginner novelists. And that takes some real skill and experience to start with a bunch of different, groups and moving pieces. But it is possible to bring them together and keep it all integrated toward the plot and whatnot. But, please don't do it in your first novel. It's a real headache, for you and the readers. But great novel. So I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like that.
Yeah. Sound Engraver's clarifying here. I do like Mara Jade, albeit those two scenes with Vader, she gets a B+. Yeah, I mean there are problems there, definitely. But yeah, great novel. I really appreciated it. It's Timothy Zahn, so you can't go wrong. But
I did like that one part though when the little exchange between Mara, Jade, and Vader, when she goes, "I have a favor," and he's like, and then when he goes, "Continue," I kind of, it's almost like he's like, "Oh, she's asking me for a favor now."
Yeah. Does he want to rub her nose in it?
Yeah, I know. It's like, so what do you need?
Yeah, and it's a nice little setup for Oswald there too. Later, but yeah, so that's it. So we're gonna take a break for a few weeks. We're gonna finish up Return of the King over on the Catholic Bible Geek channel, and then we will jump into Shatterpoint over here, and we'll do Shatterpoint until we're done. And it's a comparably sized book, but it's
purple
it's good.
Lightsabers at the ready.
Mm-hmm. Yep, got that purple lightsaber, plays a key part in the book. Really awesome book. I'll tell you just a little bit of a setup, just to tease it. Themes of civilization versus I don't want to say chaos, the wild, nature, what is natural freedom, and so forth. Because he goes off to this jungle planet, in which the Force is strong, but it's anyway, it's really really great stuff. So
the primeval,
the primeval, that kind of stuff. So good stuff. So yeah, that's it for us tonight. Any closing thoughts or things you wanted to say, Al?
Well, like I said, I like the book a lot, and I am looking forward to Saturday night.
What's going on Saturday, Al?
Saturday night on my channel. You, my friend, the professor, is my special guest on Films with Friends as we watch Mannequin.
Yes.
With Kim Cattrall and some other guy.
Al does not like McCarthy. Let me put the link to your channel in there. So I am going to be on Al's channel Saturday night with him. He does these rewatches, and we're going to be rewatching the 80s classic Mannequin, which is just a wonderful 80s-ish retelling of the Pygmalion story.
I used to have glasses. I used to have glasses like that guy, and
Hollywood. Yeah, I had glasses like that too. Yeah,
I
Hollywood Montrose.
I gave him to the kid I worked with at school before. When he graduated, I kind of gave them to him for a little fun.
They were very 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be fun. What time is that on Saturday night?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Okay. So yeah, that'll be fun. But that's it for us then here. Be back with other stuff going on and everything. You know, the usual. Everybody streams on everybody's nights and whatnot. Sound Engraver will be back Monday night. And yep, I got another video uploading, another installment of my Bible survey through the Bible course that's over on Catholic Bible Geek later tonight. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll be back soon enough with the book study on Shatterpoint. Until then, as the mood takes me, as an idea hits me, I might, pop a video over here. We'll see. But you know where to find me in the meantime. Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love.
Yes. Good.